Hello, Education 211. Today, my presentation will be exploring the state of belonging in relation to my three stories. Being a part of Education 211 for this short semester proved revealing and inspiring. We were forced to confront a harsh history that worked to oppress Indigenous peoples, and this history confirms that their right to identity was threatened as they were systematically subjected to the discrimination that attempted to strip them of their culture and traditions. While learning about the injustices that attempted to control identities within Canada, we also learned about ourselves. My experience in Education 211 emphasized and revealed how important my culture and religion are to me, functioning as an intricate part of my identity. Writing and reflecting on the celebration of traditions reminded me of my own and the important part they play in my life. As a result, it is simple to understand the damage that is done when one's traditions, beliefs, and ideology are oppressed. I have come to see that the repression of one's belief is so damaging to identity. This presentation will recognize that all three of my stories long for the acceptance of belonging that is so important in fostering identity. My first story, which focuses on me as an individual and in relation to members of my community, especially highlights the significance of being a Muslim woman, a sister, and a Canadian. I learned how much my identity and sense of belonging is tied to my religion, traditions, and rituals. Upon reflection, it became clear how much I yearned for the acceptance of belonging that allowed me to celebrate who I am in Canada. What is clear now is that belonging and becoming my true authentic self is correlated with the positive, accepting environment that I have grown up in. More than ever, I believe in the value of a safe environment, one in which we can learn and celebrate one another. An atmosphere of acceptance will only encourage one to be themselves. Reading the paper, Removing Racism from the Indian Act by Christina Martina, reminds me of the trauma that residential schools, for example, have had on Aboriginal peoples. The cruel legislation has stripped many women of their identity, and this legislation meant that they and their children are susceptible to future identity problems. Unfortunately, it is easy to predict trauma as a result of the Indian Act because it denied non-status Aboriginal peoples and their children their cultural and familial heritage, and an important aspect of their identity. My second story revealed how much I look for acceptance within Canada. It greatly affects me in my ability to express myself, religion, traditions when I sense hostility. Yet, it also surprised me how much of Canadian history I wrote about is tied to the Muslim community. I realized that I can't help but feel a sense of pride for the history that reveals strong women and their efforts in contributing and developing the Muslim community within Canada. I would like to share two historical events that happened here in Canada and affected me significantly with you today. The first relates back to the El Rashid Mosque, which is the first mosque in Canada and is located here in Edmonton. It was founded in 1938 thanks to the dedication of a few powerful women. The story of how the mosque came to be proves to be a beautiful tale of faith, community, and kindness for Muslims and non-Muslims alike. The few women asked shop owners just along Jasper Avenue for their contributions, and in that way, individuals from various faiths came together to open the first mosque. The Al Rashid Mosque is important to Canadian history as it represents the solidarity and support that it took to build. These women were able to bring a community together by seeking the support and kindness of their neighbors, no matter their faiths, no matter their beliefs. I am so proud of the Canada that consists of people from different faiths, perspectives, and ideas coming together to support and foster one another. This story is an intricate part of my identity and history in Canada because it represents the acceptance that all people, no matter their religion, race, sexuality, gender, deserve. Most of all, it is representative of a diverse community supporting one another. It is when acceptance surrounds me that I feel like I belong most. In October 22nd, 2014, Michael Zihapibo opened fire at Parliament Hill in Ottawa, tragically taking the life of soldier Nathan Carello. The perpetrator was later identified as a Muslim convert. It was infuriating that he killed an innocent individual and that he used my religion as an excuse to do it. Tensions, though, against Muslims ran high soon after the attack. It was when a mosque in Cold Lake was vandalized that October that I felt it was as if my whole religion was being accused of such a horrendous crime. The only thing that eased that anxiety was seeing so many individuals from all over Canada come together to condemn attacks against Muslims. It was both heartwarming and reassuring to see people from all different backgrounds attempting to get rid of the Go Home graffiti that was painted on the mosque. It is these acts of kindness that restored my faith in Canada and our society. We must stop categorizing, stereotyping individuals no matter their religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and gender. It is only then that all can truly feel that they belong. My final story My final story focused much on the consequences of an unaccepting, judgmental, and exclusive society. The effect that stereotypes can have is exemplified in the 2001 sexual assault trial of Melissa Castellane. In the chapter Capturing Women: The Manipulation of Cultural Imagery in Canada's Prairie West, Sarah Carter suggests that Aboriginal women have been targeted and blamed for society's faults and failings. Today, stereotypes that paint Aboriginal women in a bad light play out in Melissa's trial. While her attackers are protected by white male privilege, stereotypes that insinuate Indigenous women as immoral work against her and others. These negative portrayals of Aboriginal peoples, especially women, become deeply embedded in the society and have proved stubborn to revision. So that women, such as Melissa, continue to pay the consequences for these implications and what they present. In 1876, the Indian Act is passed, and with it, Indigenous people are systematically stripped of their identity and confined to the rules and discrimination that the government set out. We must ensure that all is met with the acceptance and encouragement they need to practice their beliefs and traditions and know they belong and are respected citizens within Canada. Having community belonging and acceptance allows one to break down the numerous barriers that shield success. Systems such as the residential schools work to break familial ties and ensure that the tools needed to foster them are destroyed. Consequently, it can be an intimidating prospect to practice the traditions, languages, and cultures that are so heavily stigmatized by the media. Today, moving forward, it is critical to positively introduce diversity into the public sphere as it assures young people that it is socially acceptable and welcomed to be their true, authentic selves. I feel that my stories long for an accepting society where individuals can prosper by being the true, unapologetic version of themselves. My first and second story especially look for the confirmation and assurance from my close circle and the rest of society so that I can freely and proudly be myself. By the time I approached the third story, the negative consequences of living under oppression became significantly clearer. Sarah Carter suggests that Indigenous women have been targeted by the stereotypes that work against them so that they are no longer met with the respect they deserve. Society must do better and ensure that all knows and feels that they belong and are effective, respectable, and important members of our Canada. We must celebrate one another so that we can all enjoy the earth as free beings. While I see the connection between my three stories being a play on belonging and acceptance from society, they have also conflicted quite a bit. My first two stories were directly related to me, my family, and our experience within Canada. What was missing in both is an awareness and realization of the Aboriginal community. My previous education, as well as this class, has indicated the long history of prejudice and discrimination that has targeted Indigenous people. Still, none of the historical events surrounding such issues made an occurrence in either of my first stories. I have come to realize that this speaks to my ignorance and lack of initiative to place myself within the community. Disappointed in myself, this class has opened my eyes to the tensions that refrain all three of my stories from effortlessly and eloquently connecting. Thus, writing my third story, it became clear that the issues that surround Indigenous peoples are ongoing at that stereotypes that hinder all of Canadians' rights to belong alive. While belonging is a major theme of all my stories, I would have wished that my first two stories incorporated the connection that would allow me to realize the relation I have to Indigenous people within Canada and how that has contributed to hope of a better, more accepting future. Just respect us, encourage us, listen to us, learn a little bit about us. To me, this quote represents what Education 211 has left me with. The student Christine in this quote describes an environment that encourages acceptance for all, so that all can feel that they belong. As I attempt to foster an accepting and welcoming classroom, I will respect, encourage, listen, and learn from all of my students and their cultures. I hope that my classroom will inspire my students to be the best possible versions of themselves. I continue to learn about Indigenous peoples' histories and relate them to my own experiences and observations. However, it is difficult to avoid a sense of shame and sadness when I realize that much that I am learning is new to me. Indigenous peoples' histories are not to be ignored, for their severity and brutality is almost incomparable to so much that is taking place today. In acknowledging this, I hope that writing, discussing, and relating to the topic will work to ensure that history is never repeated and that negative thinking that leads to racism is no longer normal. Thank you so much for listening.